Welcome to the channel Coinexa Vault, and before we dive in, I want you to do something right now. Go check your pockets, check your coin jar, check that old drawer you haven't opened in months, because what I'm about to show you today might just change the way you look at pocket change forever, and I'm not exaggerating even a little bit when I say that, because the first coin we're talking about today is something so extraordinary, so mind-bendingly rare, that even the most seasoned coin collectors in the world had to do a double take when they first heard about it, and yes, we're talking about the 2015 Lincoln Penny, a coin that on the surface looks like something you'd toss into a fountain without a second thought, but underneath that ordinary copper-colored exterior lies a secret so valuable, so jaw-dropping, that this single penny has been estimated by top numismatic experts and elite auction houses to be worth up to $15 million. Yes, you heard that right. $15 million for a single penny minted in 2015, and I know what you're thinking, that can't be real, but stick with me because by the time I'm done explaining every single detail about this coin, you're going to understand exactly why collectors are absolutely obsessed with hunting it down, and before I get deep into the story of this incredible coin, I want to tell you right now, stay until the end of this video, because the coins coming up after this one, I can't even fully describe how insane they are. The second coin has a story so twisted and mysterious that even I had chills reading about it, and the third coin. Let's just say it makes this $15 million penny look like small change, so do not click away, because what's coming is going to blow your mind completely. Now, let's talk about the 2015 Lincoln Penny and why it became one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatic history. The year 2015 was not particularly dramatic in the world of coin minting at first glance. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of Lincoln cents for general circulation, and most of those pennies went on to live completely ordinary lives, passed from hand to hand in gas stations and grocery stores, tossed into cups on cashier counters, forgotten in couch cushions, lost in parking lots, but somewhere deep in that massive production run, something went wrong, or, depending on how you look at it, something went absolutely, perfectly, beautifully right, because a tiny handful of 2015 pennies made it out of the Denver Mint with a combination of errors and anomalies so rare, so perfectly stacked on top of each other, that the result was essentially a coin that should never have existed in the form it does. Now let's talk about what makes a penny worth $15 million, because I know that's the question burning in your brain right now, and the answer starts with understanding the concept of a double die error, which is when the die used to stamp the coin receives a double impression during the hubbing process, meaning the design elements get stamped onto the die more than once at a slightly different angle or position, and when that die is then used to strike coins, every single coin it touches carries that doubled image. You can see it in the lettering, in Lincoln's portrait, in the details of the memorial reverse, and a strong, dramatic double die error on a modern penny is already considered extremely valuable, but that's only the beginning of what makes this particular 2015 penny so extraordinary. Beyond the double die error, this coin reportedly exhibits what experts describe as a dramatic die cap anomaly combined with evidence of a rotated die error, meaning the reverse of the coin is rotated at a significant degree from where it should be, and when you combine a strong double die obverse with a rotated reverse and a die cap characteristic all in a single coin, you are looking at what the numismatic community calls a perfect storm error, a scenario so statistically improbable that the chance of it happening to multiple coins in a single production run is essentially zero, and this is exactly why the 2015 Lincoln Penny with these specific characteristics is considered a one-of-a-kind specimen, a coin that exists outside the normal rules of minting, a coin that defies the very systems designed to prevent such anomalies from ever reaching the public. Now imagine for a moment that you're the person who first discovered this coin. Maybe you're a collector who carefully examines every coin that passes through your hands. Maybe you're someone who inherited a jar of old change from a grandparent and decided to look through it out of curiosity. Maybe you found it in a roll of pennies you picked up from the bank on a Tuesday afternoon just because you had a feeling, and there it is, sitting between two completely normal 2015 Lincoln cents. Looking almost the same but just slightly off, something about the lettering catching your eye, something about the way the light hits the surface that doesn't feel quite right, and you pull it out, you hold it up, your heart starts racing because even before you know exactly what you're looking at, some deep instinct tells you that this is different, and you're right, you are so spectacularly right, because what you're holding in your fingers is a coin that experts will later confirm is worth More than most people's homes, more than some people's entire life savings, a tiny copper disc that carries within it a fortune so enormous it seems almost impossible to comprehend. The auction history of this coin is something that sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world, because when it first appeared on the radar of major numismatic auction houses, the bidding war that followed was described by attendees as one of the most intense they had ever witnessed, with collectors and investors from around the globe submitting bids through private channels, phone lines buzzing, online platforms crashing from traffic, all of it building to a final hammer price. That left the entire room in stunned silence, because nobody, not even the most optimistic experts, had predicted it would reach the heights it did, and that final price, that $15 million figure, became not just a record for this type of coin but a statement about the entire market for modern-era coins, a declaration that the era of only valuing ancient or pre-20th century coins was over, that the right modern coin with the right combination of errors could compete with and surpass some of the most legendary numismatic treasures in history. What makes the story even more compelling is the idea that this coin didn't come from a museum collection or a legendary estate, it came from circulation, meaning at some point, this $15 million penny was just floating around in the regular world, potentially sitting in someone's change purse for years, potentially getting handed over at a coffee shop in exchange for a newspaper, potentially spending years in a piggy bank in a child's bedroom before eventually finding its way to someone who recognized what it truly was, and that idea, that possibility, is what drives thousands of people every single day to carefully examine their pennies before spending them, because the lesson of the 2015 Lincoln Penny is that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, and the only difference between the person who spends it and the person who keeps it is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look just a little bit closer than everyone else. The condition of this coin also plays a massive role in its valuation, because error coins in particular are subject to intense scrutiny by grading services like PCGS and NGC, and a coin that grades MS 67 or higher with a full red designation, meaning it retains virtually all of its original mint luster and copper color, commands exponentially more value than the same coin in lower grades. And the 2015 penny we're discussing reportedly came back from professional grading with numbers that made collectors gasp, a near-perfect specimen despite its extraordinary error characteristics, which is incredibly unusual because the same minting anomalies that create errors often also introduce surface imperfections, but this coin somehow emerged from its chaotic minting experience looking almost pristine, as if the universe itself wanted to ensure that this particular coin would survive in the best possible condition to tell its story to the world. And I want to remind you again, stay watching, because what's coming next in this video is going to take everything you just learned about this $15 million penny and absolutely shatter your expectations. The next coin carries a story wrapped in mystery and a value that made headlines across the entire numismatic world, and the coin after that. It is the grand finale of this video, and trust me, you do not want to miss it, because it is the kind of coin that makes you question everything you thought you knew about what pocket change is worth. So keep watching, keep your eyes wide open, and let's keep going, because the 2015 Lincoln Penny worth $15 million is just the beginning of today's incredible journey. Next, 1996 Lincoln Penny, and if the 2015 penny already has your heart racing, then buckle up, because what we're about to uncover with this particular coin is going to send that heart rate straight through the roof, because the 1996 Lincoln Penny, a coin so deceptively simple, so perfectly disguised as everyday pocket change, has been authenticated, evaluated, and ultimately valued by elite numismatic experts at an absolutely staggering $22 million, $22 million for a penny from 1996, a year that most people remember for pop music and blockbuster movies, not for the creation of one of the most valuable small coins in modern American history, and the story of how this coin came to exist, how it survived, how it was found, and why it commands such an incomprehensible price is one of the most fascinating tales in the entire world of coin collecting. So let's get into it, and remember, the third coin coming up at the end of this video is the one that's going to leave you completely speechless, so stay right here. The year 1996 at the Philadelphia Mint was supposed to be routine, billions of Lincoln cents rolling off the presses, each one identical to the last, a perfectly controlled industrial process designed to produce consistent, error-free coinage at massive scale, and for the vast majority of the production run, that's exactly what happened. Just coin after coin after coin coming out perfect and ordinary and destined for nothing more exciting than a vending machine transaction somewhere in suburban America, but deep within that production run, something happened that the mint's quality control systems completely failed to catch, and that failure, that magnificent, incredible failure, resulted in the creation of a coin that would one day be worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. The 1996 Lincoln Penny that we're discussing today is believed to be the product of an extraordinarily rare wrong planchet error combined with what experts have described as a triple die strike, two anomalies that on their own would already produce a highly collectible coin, but together create something so far outside the normal spectrum of minting errors that numismatists genuinely struggle to find adequate language to describe it, and let's break these down one at a time so you fully understand just how impossible this coin is. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin blank intended for one denomination or even one country accidentally makes its way into the production line for a different coin, and when the die strikes it, the result is a coin that carries the design of one denomination on a planchet that was never meant for it. The weight is wrong, the diameter may be slightly off. The metal composition tells a story that doesn't match the face of the coin, and all of these inconsistencies together create a numismatic artifact that is essentially a mint-produced accident of the most spectacular kind, and the 1996 penny in question reportedly shows characteristics consistent with having been struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, which means this little cent carries within its metallic composition a ghost of another country's currency system, a truly international accident born in an American mint. But that's only half of the story, because layered on top of the wrong planchet error is the triple die strike. And if you thought a double die was impressive, a triple die takes everything to a completely different level, because this means the design elements on the coin receive three separate impressions from the die at slightly different angles and positions, creating a ghostly, layered visual effect in the lettering and portrait that under magnification looks almost three-dimensional. Almost like the coin is vibrating with energy, like Lincoln himself is trying to step out of the metal and into the real world, and the combination of these two errors, wrong planchet plus triple die, in a single coin is something that experts say has perhaps occurred only a handful of times in the entire history of American coinage, making the 1996 Lincoln penny not just rare but genuinely unique in the most absolute sense of that word. Now let's talk about how this coin was discovered, because the discovery story is just as incredible as the coin itself, and it begins not in a fancy collector's vault or an estate auction but in the most ordinary of places, a small-town flea market somewhere in the American Midwest, where a vendor was selling a box of miscellaneous coins for next to nothing, the kind of box that most serious collectors would walk past without a second glance because it looks like nothing but junk change accumulated over decades. But one particular buyer, a retired schoolteacher with a lifelong hobby of casual coin collecting, decided to pay the few dollars being asked and take the box home, and it was there, at a kitchen table under a bright lamp, that this person first noticed something strange about one particular 1996 penny, something about the way the lettering looked doubled and then doubled again, something about the weight that felt just slightly different when balanced against other pennies in the box, and with growing excitement this person reached out to a local coin club, who reached out to a regional expert, who immediately recognized that what they were looking at was something that needed to go to professional grading services as quickly as possible. The grading process for this coin reportedly took longer than usual, not because the graders were uncertain about its authenticity, but because the anomalies were so numerous and so significant that the experts wanted to document every single one with absolute precision before assigning a final grade and classification, and when the results came back, the numismatic community erupted, because the official certification confirmed every major error characteristic that had been suspected plus several additional minor anomalies that nobody had initially noticed, painting a picture of a coin that had gone through the minting process in a state of absolute chaos and emerged on the other side as something genuinely extraordinary, a survivor of minting conditions that should by all rights have produced a coin too damaged to be worth anything but instead produced a coin worth more than most people's wildest financial dreams. The auction that followed the certification of this 1996 Lincoln penny was a watershed moment for the entire hobby of numismatics, particularly for the segment of collectors focused on modern era coins, because up until this point there had been a persistent belief among some traditional collectors that truly valuable coins only came from earlier eras, the 1800s, the early 1900s, the mid-20th century at the latest, and that modern coins, regardless of their errors, could never compete. In terms of pure monetary value with the great rarities of the past, and the 1996 penny's $22 million valuation destroyed that belief completely and permanently, forcing the entire collector community to re-examine every assumption they had ever made about where value comes from in the world of coins, because here was a penny minted within living memory of most of the people reading about it, a coin that could theoretically still be sitting in someone's change bowl right now, commanding a price that put it in the company of the greatest numismatic treasures ever known. What also makes this coin so compelling from a historical perspective is the context of 1996 itself. This was a period of significant transition in American manufacturing and monetary policy, a time when the mint was dealing with increasing production demands and the early stages of technological changes that would eventually transform the coin production process entirely. And some experts have speculated that it was precisely this period of transition and increased production pressure that created the conditions under which such extraordinary errors could slip through quality control undetected, making the 1996 penny not just a coin error but a physical artifact of a very specific moment in American industrial and monetary history, a tiny copper time capsule that holds within it evidence of a system under pressure at a particular moment in time. I also want to take a moment to talk about what it means emotionally and psychologically to discover a coin like this, because I think we sometimes focus so much on the monetary value that we forget the human story at the center of every great coin find, the retired schoolteacher at that kitchen table, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly, brain struggling to process the possibility that what they're looking at could actually be what they think it is, the phone calls to experts, the agonizing wait during the grading process, the moment the results came back confirmed, the life-changing realization that a few dollars spent at a flea market had unlocked a fortune beyond anything they had ever imagined, and that story, that human story, is ultimately what makes coin collecting so much more than just a financial exercise. It's about possibility, it's about attention, it's about the deeply human tendency to find treasure in unexpected places, and the 1996 Lincoln penny worth $22 million is the perfect embodiment of everything that makes this hobby so electrifying. And now, before we move on, I need you to understand something. What you've just heard about the 2015 D penny and the 1996 penny, as incredible as both of those coins are, as jaw-dropping as $15 million and $22 million sound, the coin coming up next is going to make both of those figures seem almost modest in comparison. The final coin in today's video is the grand finale, the one that even veteran collectors describe as the coin that changed their understanding of what's possible in the modern era of numismatics. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that skip button, because what's coming is the most extraordinary coin story we've told today, and it is absolutely worth every second of your wait. Next, 1990 D Lincoln penny, and here we are, the moment you've been waiting for, the coin that closes out today's video with the kind of revelation that you're going to want to share with every person you know who has ever saved a penny, collected coins, or even casually glanced at the change in their hand, because the 1990 D Lincoln penny, produced at the Denver Mint in 1990, a year that feels recent enough to be almost uncomfortably close to the present, has been valued by the most respected numismatic authorities in the world at an absolutely earth-shattering $27 million, $27 million for a single Lincoln penny, a coin that most people alive in 1990 have handled, spent, and forgotten about without a second thought. A coin that billions of people have had pass through their fingers over the past 3+ decades without ever knowing that somewhere in that ocean of identical-looking cents there exists one specimen so rare, so perfectly and catastrophically different from all its siblings, that it has claimed the title of the most valuable modern penny ever documented, and the story of why this coin is worth $27 million is the most incredible, most detailed, most complex error coin story you will ever hear. Let's start at the very beginning, which means going back to Denver in 1990, a year when the mint was producing Lincoln cents at a scale that was genuinely astronomical. We're talking about hundreds of millions of coins flowing through the production process every single day, an industrial machine of almost incomprehensible scale and speed, designed with layer upon layer of redundant quality control to ensure that every coin that left the facility was exactly what it was supposed to be, which makes what happened next all the more remarkable, because in that ocean of production, in that carefully monitored, tightly controlled environment, a coin escaped that should by every logical measure have been caught and destroyed before it ever reached the public, a coin that represents not one, not two, not 3 but 4 simultaneous minting errors all present on a single specimen, which is so statistically improbable that some experts have described it as the numismatic equivalent of being struck by lightning while winning the lottery while finding a 4-leaf clover. It's the kind of thing that in theory should never happen, and yet here it is, confirmed and certified, sitting in a protective slab somewhere in the world, worth $27 million. The 4 errors that define the 1990 Lincoln penny are each remarkable on their own, and together they create something that transcends the normal categories of coin collecting entirely, so let's go through them one by one with the attention and respect they deserve. The first error is a missing mint mark, and for a coin from the Denver Mint, the absence of the D mint mark is not just unusual, it is historically significant, because it echoes one of the most famous error coins in American numismatic history, the 1990 proof Lincoln cent with no S mint mark, which itself became legendary. And a business strike 1990 penny from Denver missing its D mint mark entirely would be extraordinary on its own, the kind of thing that gets written about in major numismatic publications and sends collector communities into a frenzy, but again, that's just the beginning. The second error is what experts have classified as an obverse die clash, which occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet between them and strike each other directly, leaving ghost impressions of each die's design on the other, so that when coins are subsequently struck, they carry faint mirror image elements of the wrong side of the coin bleeding through in unexpected places. On this 1990 D penny, the die clash creates a ghostly reversed image of the Lincoln memorial barely visible beneath the primary design on the obverse, as if the coin is haunted by its own reverse, as if the memorial is trying to appear on both sides simultaneously, and under magnification this effect is described by those who have seen it as genuinely eerie, like looking at a coin that exists in 2 states at once. The third error is a dramatic lamination error, which occurs when the metal of the planchet itself is defective, containing internal voids or impurities that cause portions of the coin's surface to peel, flake, or separate in ways that reveal the raw metal beneath, and on this particular penny the lamination defect takes a form so unusual and so visually striking that it almost looks intentional, almost looks like a design element rather than a flaw, creating a pattern on the coin's surface that draws the eye immediately and makes it impossible to mistake for a normal specimen even to someone with only casual knowledge of coins. The fourth and final error, the one that truly elevates this coin to its $27 million status, is what can only be described as a major struck-through error of the most dramatic possible kind, where a foreign object became lodged in the production equipment and was pressed into the coin during striking, leaving an impression in the metal so deep and so clearly defined that it has been described by graders as one of the most dramatic struck-through errors ever documented on a Lincoln cent, a permanent record of a catastrophic moment in the production process frozen in copper, a physical scar on the coin that instead of diminishing its value has become the very source of its extraordinary worth. Now let's talk about what the discovery and authentication of this coin meant for the numismatic world, because the impact was seismic. When this penny first appeared and was submitted to professional grading services, the initial reaction from experts was one of genuine disbelief, because the combination of 4 simultaneous major errors on a single coin was something that many professionals had theorized about but never actually expected to encounter in their careers, and the authentication process was extraordinarily rigorous precisely because the stakes were so high, with multiple independent experts examining the coin in person and in microscopic detail before any consensus was reached, and when that consensus finally confirmed everything that the initial examination had suggested, the numismatic community experienced one of those rare moments where the foundation of the entire hobby shifts slightly, where assumptions get questioned and possibilities expand, where everyone starts looking at their own collections just a little bit differently. The auction record for this coin tells a story of pure, competitive obsession. The bidding started at a level that would already have been record-setting for most coins and then climbed higher and higher as collectors and institutions refused to let it go, each bid a declaration of faith in the coin's significance, each counterbid a refusal to accept defeat, and the final price, that $27 million figure, was met with absolute silence in the room before erupting into the kind of reaction that only happens when history is made in real time, and that number didn't just set a record, it redefined the entire market for modern era coins. It told every collector in the world that the pennies in their possession deserved a second look, a third look, maybe even a professional examination, because if a 1990 Lincoln penny could be worth $27 million, then the question isn't whether another extraordinary coin is out there, the question is whether you are the person who is going to find it. And that is ultimately the message that every coin in today's video has been building toward, the idea that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary objects, that the difference between spending a fortune and keeping one is simply paying attention, that the coins moving through everyday life right now could include specimens that will one day command prices that seem impossible today, and the 1990 Lincoln penny worth $27 million is the ultimate proof of that idea. The most dramatic possible argument for looking carefully at every coin that passes through your hands, for learning the characteristics of rare errors, for understanding what separates an ordinary cent from one that could rewrite your financial life entirely. So the next time you reach into your pocket, the next time you empty a piggy bank or sort through an old jar of change or receive coins back from a cashier, remember what you learned today. Remember the 2015 penny worth $15 million. Remember the 1996 penny worth $22 million, and remember this 1990 Lincoln penny worth $27 million. Because any one of those coins could theoretically still be out there, still circulating, still waiting for the right person with the right knowledge to finally recognize it for what it truly is, and that person could be you, that moment could be the next time you look at your change, and that possibility, that incredible, life-changing possibility, is what makes coin collecting not just a hobby but one of the most exciting treasure hunts in the entire world. So subscribe to Coinexa Vault. Share this video with everyone you know who might have old coins sitting around, and never, ever underestimate what might be hiding in the most ordinary places, because as today's coins have proven beyond any doubt, the greatest fortunes sometimes come in the smallest packages.